Hello, this is Jord from Propaganda here. Besides the itching of my crabs, I'd like to say subscribe to 4ZZZ. Don't take this for granted, eh? Fuck off. Oh.
All right, we're recording.
Does it have a built-in click track?
Yeah.
That's
it
wild.
counts you in. This thing is amazing.
That's crazy.
I know. Okay, maybe I should talk into the microphone.
I think you should leave that in the episode.
That's fine. I'm fine. All this is in. It's great. I don't even care.
You are listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, we are discussing Todd's incredibly professional station ID for 4ZZZ Brisbane Track 10, just before contest song, which we've used in countless bonus episodes on this podcast. From 1998's Where Quantity is Job 1 compilation on G7 Welcoming Committee Records. You just heard the entire thing because it is 17 seconds long, and we are now going to probably talk about it for hours.
Hours. Okay, so right now I'm looking at the counter, and the episode is currently 55 seconds long, which means we're already like triple the length of the actual track itself. So
I love it.
We're off and running. Yeah, we're in your living room. Hi.
Well, this is our very first in-person episode. That being said, I don't know if it's going to come out before or after the next in-person episode we're about to record after this one.
Yeah, I'm not really sure which one I'm going to do first. Who cares? So, Steve, what do you think of the track? We just listened to it. You probably just heard it for the first time in years.
It is the first time I've heard it in years because, as I've mentioned multiple times on the show, my Quantity is Job 1 CD is stuck in my CD player and has been stuck in there since the late 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know what I just did yesterday as well? You know how there's two different covers of the Where Quantity is Job Number 1 CD? There's the brown version with the little mopping guy, and then there's the white version with Jord on the front cover. I have had and owned a factory sealed copy of the white CD version for the last several years. And yesterday, I could not find my brown copy. I think it's buried in my car at the moment. So I opened the factory sealed white cover version ever to see if there was any notes on 4ZZZ Brisbane in that CD. And there were no notes in the white version of the CD booklet.
Are there notes in the brown version?
I'm not sure. I couldn't find it.
I have the case for the brown version, but not the actual CD.
Amazing. Well, who knows? There might be notes on the inside of that, but I do know some things about 4ZZZ Brisbane and the likely backstory of when this was recorded. So maybe we don't need it. Due diligence.
Let's wing it.
Can piss off.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got. Do you know anything about 4ZZZ Brisbane?
I know nothing, but I feel like I'm about to find out a lot.
Oh, baby, you are. So 4ZZZ Brisbane is a radio station, and it is at 102.1 FM, and it's located in Fortitude Valley, Queensland, Australia. Their website is 4ZZZ.org.au. They have an About section on their website, as you might imagine, and here are some information that you need to know about this radio station. 4ZZZ is Queensland's longest-running FM radio station.
Hello.
It is a not-for-profit community broadcaster, and they say that they have been reliably pumping out alternative music, news, and culture since they began as the official student radio at the University of Queensland in 1975. So there's a little bit of details for you so far. What do you think about that?
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. So they have 4 decades and plenty of history behind them, and they are broadcasting from Berry Parade in Fortitude Valley, Queensland, Australia, which Berry Parade, I have no idea what that is. Maybe, I'm sure that a listener in Australia will send me a very detailed description of what Berry Parade may be. And if not, they're invited to do so at propagandapod@gmail.com. But it says they connect and amplify the voices of the community across Southeast Queensland and streaming throughout the world. They also say they are passionate about Brisbane and the things happening in the city, whether it's music, arts, LGBTQIA+, First Nations, or local issues. They endeavor to empower local communities through community broadcasting. So I'm pretty pleased with these discoveries.
I mean, yeah, obviously. My thing is like, did we expect this radio station to have like a different bio if they're like if Propaganda is doing a station ID for them?
No, absolutely not. It shouldn't be surprising to me at all. It's just that it's a nice little discovery, considering that last night I had this epiphany that I have not prepared for this in any way, and I was like, maybe I should find some information about what this radio station actually is and does, and it's pretty on brand for what I was expecting to find, but I did find it, so there you go.
I have a follow-up question based off of your research.
Mm-hmm.
What's the broadcast strength of their radio signal?
Oh man, that's a really great idea, but I mean, it's the longest running radio station in the region, so
like what's the if you're not listening online, I'm curious as to what the geographic spread is of their signal strength.
I mean, if you know anything about community radio or like college radio, university radio stations, it's not far. It's probably not a very big pull, but I am glad that they are continuing. They still exist to this day. It's pretty cool, but I'd imagine it's little.
Like our college radio station, when I had a show on it, this was back in like 1996, 1997. It broadcast in the cafeteria only. And someone went up and unplugged the speaker in the cafeteria. So it didn't really broadcast anywhere. But they still ran a full radio station that nobody could listen to unless they were standing in the next room.
I would like to believe that this is a little bit different. And I did see some video footage of Propaganda doing stuff involving this radio station. And it seems like they have like a real operation going on. So it's probably a step or two up from what it is that you're describing.
Oh, if they're obviously a step, they're probably far more than 2 steps above what I just described.
Mm-hmm. So I have a little more. It says they are run by a small team of paid and volunteer staff governed by the 4ZZZ Board of Directors. And like many community radio stations, they are powered by volunteers. From the voices you hear on the radio to the people who process your CDs or run events with our name on them, everyone at 4ZZZ loves what they do. You'll hear it when you tune into 102.1 FM or listen to our digital channel, Z Digital, on your DAB radio, both available to stream online. So it seems like the online thing is going well, and I did click on their online streaming last night, and it does come through in my living room in Buffalo from when you stream in.
That's pretty good. In Buffalo, do you have a 102.1?
I don't know, actually.
Is your 102.1 also like the alternative station there?
You know, I have no idea, because having not grown up in Buffalo, like I could tell you that like where I grew up in St. Louis, like 105.7 The Point, or KC 95, like those were our like major rock stations, and then 104.1 in St. Louis was a big thing. So I can remember the influential radio stations from my younger years, but I don't know any stations like that in Buffalo, because I never turn on the radio except for 88.7, which is NPR in Buffalo.
Huh. In Toronto, there's the like alternative music radio station. I'm pretty sure is 102.1. Is that The Edge? Yeah, the 102.1 The Edge. And I don't know. The only reason I know that is years and years ago. I want to say like Valentine's Day 2005. I did one of these station ID things. When my band at the time they had us on for like a Valentine's Day Massacre episode.
Really?
And we had that recording and that stuff never sees the light of day anymore, but we did one of those back then.
Something that I have always considered that I should have been doing more of is whenever I run across people in real life who know about the podcast, I should have had them record like in a voice memo on my phone. Hey, this is Jamie, and you're listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. Or, hey, this is Mike, you're listening to Unscripted Moments. You know what I mean? I should have been doing that with people throughout the history of the show and like putting that on the very front of the episode to like include some other people's voices. But it's just something that I should have been doing station IDs, man. I should have been doing this all along.
Imagine we had one that was, "Hi, this is Sami Zayn, and you're listening to Unscripted Moments."
I know. It's a real missed opportunity. So I'm going to I'm just going to take the blame on that. I almost made a joke and said I'm going to blame Keith for that, but that would be ridiculous. So I should have been doing that all along. So yeah, missed opportunity to do station IDs from a couple hundred people at this point, probably.
There's some people that have been on the show that I think about, and I'm like, man, their station ID would be awesome.
Yeah, I did do a station ID one time, which I have since taken down. So there was one that I did, and I actually removed it. So it was a real bummer. But I'm thinking about these, and now I have so many missed opportunities. Man, you could have done one with every member of the band. I could have done one with Joe and Rob from Sacrifice. Oh man, I could have done one with John Darnielle from the Mountain Goats. Huge bummer.
And to me, in my head, the one station ID that would be the funniest for ours, and I could probably still get it, would be if we were to get Chevy to record a station ID for us.
I mean, he has to do one. So tell him he is now required to do a station ID for us. And every once in a while, I do put his Fidala's Hearse cover like just on Twitter or something, and just put a link up to it and just say, hey, if you didn't hear this, like you got to hear this because like. Who covers Fidala's Hearse? Nobody.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We got to do it. Okay, so do you have any questions or thoughts or ideas in relation to 4ZZZ Brisbane? Because I have more information.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I did a little digging on YouTube, and last night I had this epiphany. I was sitting at my girlfriend's house. We were playing Mario Party with her son, and I was having a blast.
Sorry, follow-up question.
Right.
On the Switch or on
Switch.
a vintage Switch?
Switch, yeah.
We're considering purchasing it.
Oh, well, I can tell you all about it, and I'm also considering purchasing one because I go down these rabbit holes with Mario Party, and I am not a video game person, like at all. I never have been. My parents refused to buy me a Nintendo when I was like 5 or 6. They refused to buy me a Sega Genesis. They never bought me a Super Nintendo. They never bought me an N64. So I don't have a history of gaming running through my identity. You know what I mean? So for me to get sucked into a game like Mario Party and play it happily for 2 hours is saying something. Okay? So I think I would support that you do this.
We have before our basement issues last year, we had like a vintage video game station in the basement, so we have like all the old Nintendos. And we have a Nintendo 64 with Mario Party, but I'm failing to remember which Mario Party it is. Zoe's told me it's Mario Party 3.
Well, I don't know what it is, but I was playing it on Switch last night, and I loved it. So I think that you should give it a roll on this little system that you got right here.
We're waiting for March 10th, which is Mario Day, where all of
I thought you were going to say it's like tax refund day.
where all of the Mario games go on sale, because March 10th spells out like Mario.
Oh my gosh, that's so clever.
So
these are the things that I'm cut off from not having a video game culture in the history of my life. I mean, it could be worse. You know what I mean? I don't really feel like my life is super duper lacking in any particular way because I don't have like a deeply ingrained history with video games, but that is kind of clever.
I mean, we played Mario Kart last night for a good couple hours.
Nice. Well, I think that you should give it a go because, like I said, for me to get super engrossed in a video game at the age of 40, when I don't have a long history of playing video games in my life, is saying something. So definitely give it a roll on the old Switch here. It's a good time. So anyway, we're sitting there last night. We're playing Mario Party. Mario. Now I'm like messing it up in my head. Is it propaganda or propaganda? So I am sitting there and I'm thinking, wow, I'm recording at Steve's house tomorrow. I know nothing about this radio station. I know nothing about this station ID that Todd records. So I go on YouTube and I type in 4ZZZ Brisbane propaganda. And something very interesting came up that I've never seen before. A 42-minute live set from a 3-week Australian tour in 1997 pops up in YouTube. It's something I had never seen before. And as you can probably imagine, I have watched probably a couple hundred live propaganda sets on YouTube in the last 3.5 years doing this show. I've never seen this one. So something brand new pops up to me whenever I type in 4ZZZ. You can find this video if you just search Propaganda 4ZZZ Radio's Basement 1997. And you can watch a video that currently has less than 300 views, even though it was uploaded 8 years ago to YouTube. This is a completely overlooked gem.
A hidden gem.
Hidden. Yeah. Less than 300 views in 8 years, right? That's nothing.
Like you can accidentally get more than 300 views in 800 years.
Absolutely. So this video, this video has completely evaded my attention until now, and it's quite a huge discovery for me because of the 4ZZZ radio spot on Where Quantity is Job 1. So this was uploaded by a YouTube user named Cal Crilly, who commented that they could barely remember filming it, but that a band called Escape from Toy Town also played, and Cal was in that band. So the opener of the show filmed Propaganda's full set from in the middle of the crowd, probably holding a frickin' camcorder because he's standing in the crowd, like constantly blocked by people in front of him. The sightline is terrible. But Escape from Toy Town is kind of like a mixture of like Agent Orange, No Means No, and Helmet, kind of like that sound. And there's also a 10-minute clip from Escape from Toy Town that he also posted on YouTube from a totally different vantage point. Interesting observations about that set is that Todd is in the band on the stage. So Todd's probably first Australian tour. Behind Chris on the stage, there's a huge 4ZZZ banner across the entire wall on the stage. But Chris also has hung posters on the wall behind the band covering the 4ZZZ banner. One of them says, "We're here, we're queer." And just behind Jord is a huge poster of what looks to be Kurt Cobain's face, like a huge picture of Kurt Cobain's face that's like, 3 by 5, like in dimensions. Huge poster with Kurt Cobain's face zoomed in really close, and underneath Kurt Cobain's face are the words "was queer." So there's like these gay positive comments and posters that are hanging on the wall on the stage behind Chris and behind Jord on that stage. So it's kind of a neat little bit of detail to check out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I watched the entire video last night, the whole set, and I wrote down the set list. So in order, the opener was Showdown, the altered version with John's parts cut out. So they opened with Showdown. Then they played Apparently My PC Fascist into Nailing Descartes. And the camera angle is very bad on the video, but there's a close-up of a guy's face when Chris says, "Stop consuming animals." And the guy kind of mouths to he's like, "Whoa," to the guy next to him. But you can tell that the guy is having his mind blown, because then they launch into Nailing Descartes, which is such an awesome song live. And you can tell that this guy's like, "Whoa, this is good." Then they go into Stick the Flag, but there's a little video edit that happens just before this, so the song cuts out, it kind of cuts in partway through. Then they play Less Talk More Rock, People's History of the World, which was awesome. My favorite part of the whole video is People's History. Then they talk about a 1997 trial of some neo-Nazis who killed a gay person in Winnipeg and was about to go on trial while they were on this tour in Australia. And then they launch into Only Dead Fascist, or Only Good Fascist is a Dead Fascist. And then they play Rio San Atlanta. They play I Was a Preteen McCarthyist. They play Nation States Was a Bad Idea. Then they do Hailey Does Hebron, and Chris talks about some fascist religious myths to justify genocide against another group of people. Todd speaks for the first time on stage on the microphone during Hailey. So the 12th song, Todd talks for the first time. He says, "I'm not really a public speaker," but he talks about how someone in Australia on that tour told him how they didn't like Aboriginal people in Australia, and Todd reminded him he was likely only hearing the white side of the story. So it was some pretty cool commentary. Chris is very chatty, but he's not super confrontational or angry like in some of the recordings from back then. Then they go into Fuck the Border, which Todd dedicates to any moron who doesn't think immigrants belong because they really need an education, which I loved. It was really funny. And it amazes me that like Todd didn't lose his voice permanently during this era, because watching Todd sing Fuck the Border in the 90s is like, this guy is like, his like head is about to explode.
Does that predate the release of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by a long way. And they were still singing the original version of Fuck the Border, where it wasn't fuck the border. It was fuck the border, fuck the border, fuck the border. So they were singing that alternative chorus, which was interesting. Then they do a version of State Lottery, which you have got to check out, because I know how much you love that song. And I've never seen a version like this, but they do this thing where Chris just does this slow halftime strumming intro, singing the beginning of the song with no musical backing, like, does it seem strange to you? But he's just like strumming like this halftime thing. And then Jord comes in like, boo ba, boo ba, boo ba. So they do this halftime version of State Lottery, which I had never seen them do it like that before, but I really loved it. So you'll have to check that out. Then Resisting Tyrannical Government. Then they do Anti-Manifesto. And then after Anti-Manifesto, a bunch of people in the crowd start yelling, "Ska sucks." And Chris says in response, "Oh, refusing to be a man? Awesome, you got it." And he goes on to make some really solid points about huge sex orgies free of coercion. If everybody would be able to understand the ideas found within refusing to be a man, we could all have guilt-free, humongous sex orgies that were free of coercion. So that was pretty interesting. And then they closed with "Who will help me bake this bread?" So no ska sucks. They did not fall to peer pressure. But man, it's a good show. It's really good. So it's a nice little time capsule that I didn't even know existed. But thank goodness for 4ZZZ Brisbane and Cal Crilly for putting on that show and for filming it and for digitizing it years and years later.
I wonder if we can get Cal to do a station ID for us.
That'd be awesome. I mean,
it would be a deep cut.
I've got his YouTube username. You know what I mean? He doesn't seem like he's impossible to track down. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I can only imagine that Todd recorded the station ID thing at the exact same time that they were doing this show. I'm sure that's why the venue did this why he did it for the venue, because they were probably the promoters of the show.
Who doesn't love a good like 90s basement punk show?
I know, exactly. So that's what I found about 4ZZZ, the station, that show, that era, some of my observations while watching that entire video. But you know, this track on Where Quantity is Job One got me thinking about like promotional materials. You know what I mean? So like you said, your band did a station ID. What is it like to do promotional stuff for bands trying to get, I don't know, new listeners, new ears on stuff? Like, the bands obviously do stuff like this. What was your experience like doing that?
It was a bit of a weird experience because, like, alternatively, like, this radio station would have never played our music ever. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't even understand why we were there. But that night, they played our songs and had us do a thing. So, it was cool, but at the same time, it just felt like it was... yeah, we got no one to put on the air this night, so let's get these bozos out of here.
So, you know, was that the only time you guys did something like that? Were you ever trying to do like other kinds of like weird promotional stuff at all?
Not really. Like we weren't back then. Like there wasn't really as much. People weren't really embracing the, you know, like hardcore bands in like on the radio. So it's not like, and there's not really anywhere to do that kind of stuff. So that was really the only one we did.
Okay, well, I guess for a band like Propaganda, obviously having them do promotional items for albums is a little more of a prevalent thing, I would suppose, considering their relevance to the scene at large and stuff like that, and the fact that they are so recognizable. But I dug a little bit into Chris's Patreon over earlier this week, because I remembered that they did like a promotional thing for Pandora when Epitaph was releasing Victory Lap. So on Chris's Patreon, I found Pandora Promotion for Victory Lap, a guide to commercial success by Chrissy, March 20th, 2021. So here's what that sounds like.
Hey, Pandora listener, guess who this is? Oh, that's right, it's Chris from Propagandy. How'd you know that? You're about to hear the title track from our new album, Victory Lap. Tap your screen to pre-order it now. Hey, Pandora listener, it's me again, Chris from Propagandy. And guess what you just heard? The title track from our new album, Victory Lap. If you like what you heard, tap your screen to pre-order it now. Hey there, this is Chris from Propagandy. Our new album, Victory Lap, comes out on September 29th, 2018. No, 17. Tap your screen to pre-order it now. Hello, Pandora listener. Aren't you good looking? This is Chris from Propagandy. And you're about to hear
Okay, so that's just like a little part of a thing that Chris did for Pandora in 2017 in the lead up to Victory Lap.
That's great.
Yeah. And so he says, here's some bottom of the barrel stupidity I found to get your weekend started right. When the Victory Lap LP was coming out a few years ago, Epitaph asked me to record several ads. There's probably an actual industry name for these things, like Zingos or Smashers.
They're stingers.
Or something equally dumb for an American streaming service called Pandora. So I did. I'm sure it was a huge success for the platform. So I've never listened to Pandora, and I looked it up yesterday, and apparently it still exists.
It still exists.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Good for them.
I don't know what generation of people is listening to this in this day and age.
I don't know if I've ever even listened to a Pandora. Can you like choose songs to listen to, or is it like a radio station?
I have no idea. I have no clue. Ugh.
No.
Yeah, so I've never opened Pandora's box, and I just was amazed that they're still in existence. But as of yesterday, I mean, maybe they closed as of today, but as of yesterday, they were still in existence.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they're still open today, but by the time this episode comes out, they don't exist anymore?
Pandora goes up in smoke within the next 3 days. So I was reading I thought the Zingos and Smashers
That's great.
was super funny, and I was reading the comments below, and Keith actually commented on that, and he said, I've always appreciated when artists or podcasters' contempt for doing advertisements is clearly on display. Also, Zingos and Smashers sound like snack cakes from the 1990s. Oh, boy.
I could really go for a Zingo right now.
I know, right? Like those old school Hostess things, like the Ho-Hos and the little... I don't know. I'm trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head, but I'm drawing a blank. My mom used to keep the freezer stocked with some frozen Hostess cakes, and I used to go in there and smash the heck out of those things.
I'm sure we have a very different. This is a side tangent to go on top of our other 15 side tangents here. But I'm sure we have a very different experience with like those snack cakes because we grew up in very different places.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
I grew up in Missouri.
And the ones that you had, like we did not have in Quebec growing up. Like my favorite one growing up was a croquette.
I've never heard of that. Did you have Ho-Hos?
No.
And Twinkies? Surely Twinkies.
No, we didn't have Twinkies in Quebec growing up.
Okay, but there were Twinkies in Ontario? Okay. Sweet. Yeah. We may have to do an inventory on childhood snack cakes after this because now I just got to know. Because, I mean, I'm in Canada right now, so I may have to go to the grocery store and see if there's any kinds of like potato chip flavors that I need to smuggle back across the border.
We gotta find them those chalet sauce chips.
Oh, man. Yeah, get me some Canadian crisps on the way home. Couldn't be a good time.
The Swiss chalet sauce chips were primo, and they were vegan too.
Well, let's find them. Okay, so Patrick Mullen on Chris's Patreon also says, I always loved the Todd radio clip on quantity, so this is not unprecedented and absolutely relevant to my interests. And Patrick is an awesome fella that I want to get on the podcast sometime because if you go on... What's that website? Genius.com, that lyric annotation website.
Yes.
Propagandy's Genius.com entries are almost entirely written by Patrick Mullen.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So Patrick is he is no slouch, and I've used a bunch of the comments that he's written in the past. Like I've read so many things that he's written, and to see his name pop up, I was like, oh man, I gotta get back in touch with Patrick. So Patrick, if you hear this, I'm really sorry.
Patrick doing the Lord's work for all of us.
Yeah, his comments are good too, because he listens very closely to Chris's Patreon and then adds entries to Genius based on what Chris says on particular song episodes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so Patrick's doing awesome stuff on Genius.
I wish I had that quality of a contribution to society.
I mean, we're sitting here making an episode about 4ZZZ Brisbane. So, I mean, we're doing our part. I would say that we're doing our part. So another interesting promotional idea was that in the lead up to Less Talk More Rock, Jord had an idea to make postcards for Less Talk More Rock. And I posted an image of some of the ones that I acquired recently on Instagram. Todd replied that said that those were Jord's idea and that Todd still owns a few of them. And now you have one and I have one too.
Thank you so much for giving that to me today. That is very thoughtful.
You're welcome. I mean, I figure, why do I need two? You know what I'm saying? There's no reason. There's no reason for this. And the last thing that I found as far as weird promotional stuff from Propagandy, have you ever seen the Propagandy Sick of It All split cassette?
I have not.
I have a copy, so next time you're over, I will show it to you. But in the lead up to Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes and Sick of It All's Yours Truly LP, they did a split cassette promo sampler by Fat Records. The A side, A1 and A2 is Back to the Motor League and Ladies Night in Loserville. And Sick of It All is on the B side, and their tracks are Blown Away and America.
So Yours Truly was the album after Call to Arms from Sick of It All, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, Call to Arms was their Fat debut.
It went Built to Last, Call to Arms, Yours Truly, I think.
Built to Last wasn't on Fat.
No,
though.
it wasn't on Fat, but it predated Call to Arms. I think that was the three album order, I think. Built to Last, Call to Arms, Yours Truly.
I know the Call to Arms predates Yours Truly in the sequential releases on Fat. And Yours Truly was coming out at the same time as Today's Empires. Man, wouldn't that be so funny if Yours Truly was actually first and we just got it totally wrong? But I'm like 98% sure.
I'm 99% sure.
Okay.
I have them in my office behind us.
Oh, okay, cool. I mean, dude, Call to Arms is a good record.
I like Call to Arms. I don't like Yours Truly.
I like Call to Arms quite a bit. I didn't care for Yours Truly either, but I did see Sick of It All on the Yours Truly tour. They played a university cafeteria in St. Louis, Missouri with with Shai Hulud for sure, but I think that the other band was the Suicide Machines.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was like, I know that Shai Hulud played that show because Matt Fox from Shai Hulud and I talked about that on this episode or on this podcast, but man, that was a cool thing to see Sick of It All in a university cafeteria with a stage built in the corner.
That Sick of It All Call to Arms album, it came out and I got it when I was I had a pretty bad cold growing up when I got that album, and I was really, really sick. I was doing the old barfing thing, and I put that record on and I listened to it, and I was just so sick that to this day listening to that record makes me feel sick.
Oh man. Well, it's ruined forever, obviously. So as far as I was looking at a little bit of the YouTube comments about that Propagandy 1997 show at 4ZZZ, and I found a YouTube comment from somebody who was at the show that said, "My mullet was still growing out. Sorry, everyone. You shouldn't have had to deal with that at Propagandy." So that was a funny comment that I wanted to read on this episode, too.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, Steve, we have now spent 33 minutes talking about a 17-second station ID. This is not even close to our most extreme lengths of episodes. I think we made a 3.5-hour episode about the 1 minute and 1 second nailing Descartes to the wall a couple years back. So this is not even close to our most extreme episode length. But I don't know. What do you thought? What are your thoughts on this 4ZZZ Todd's incredibly professional station ID thingy that we've done for this track? We got to do every track. This is a track.
I mean, I don't want to toot our own horns here, but boop boop. I think we nailed this.
I think we nailed it. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. We have had a nice time chatting about. I got to get the name of the track right. Let me scroll back through my notes. Todd's incredibly professional station ID for 4ZZZ Brisbane, track 10 from Where Quantity is Job Number 1, compilation from G7 Welcoming Committee Records. Steve, thanks for hanging, man.
This was awesome, and please join our Discord.
Join our Discord. Message us for the invite link. Thank you, everybody.